According to a study published this week, pollution of all kinds can be blamed for 9 million premature deaths around the world every year. The study by the environmental nonprofit Pure Earth and published in the Lancet blamed air pollution for 6.5 million deaths and water pollution for close to 2 million more. One of the study's authors, Richard Fuller, joins me now to go over the details. First of all, 9 million. People are going to say, wait, how do you calculate that? How do you get to a number this big?
Yeah, it's done using statistics that come out of two different organizations, WHO in Geneva, and then the Institute of Health Metrics and Evaluation, who are in the University of Washington and funded by the Gates Foundation. And what those folk do independently is collect statistics on what people are dying from country to country, and then look to allocate those deaths according to certain types of risks. So, for example, when you are exposed to air pollution, one of the things that could happen is you could get lung cancer, the same way you can when you get smoking. So these groups will allocate lung cancer deaths into 5 or 6 different causes, and we'll pick up all those that are related to pollution and aggregate them in this particular analysis.
Well, one of the things that's most striking is the distribution of where these deaths are occurring.
92% in low and middle income countries. It's a development issue. This is something that the West has looked after reasonably well. We still have pollution deaths here in the US, of course, but at a much lower level than you see in the poorer countries of the world. So it's as if we put in all the right controls in the 50s and 60s and so on. Clean air, clean water, all these acts came about. And we've been monitoring and very careful about controlling emissions and the like. Overseas, they've industrialized, and there's also this enormous draw into cities where pollution can concentrate. And they just haven't had the same results that we have in terms of their own legislative and regulatory performance.
Even if you look at beyond the horrendous totals that you're talking about, one of the graphics that you have say this is 3 times more than HIV, lung cancer, malaria. This is 15 times more than people that are dying by war, right?
War and murder. All of the murders in the world, all of the gun deaths, and anything that's violent, 15 times more than that.
And even if you set that aside for a second, which is still is ringing in my ears, this actually costs the kind of economic productivity of the entire planet as well. And that's something that you quantified that I hadn't seen before.
We looked at it based on welfare costs, and that number is just staggering. It's $4.6 trillion a year. So people are getting sick and can't work, and they're dying before they've had a productive life. So there are costs associated to that with the economy. When we calculate that in low and middle income countries, it's 2% of their GDP. So if countries were to focus on pollution and prioritize it, which of course is one of our main recommendations, that's how much they could add potentially.
You know, there's also been this common misnomer that countries have to go through some sort of a development cycle, and this is the period where they're going to be dirtier, it's going to be polluting. But you're also pointing out in this study that there's actually economic opportunity in cleaning up.
Yes. You can have very strong, solid growth that is effective and hits all parts of society in a very clean and green economy. So this old myth, we need to knock it on the head, bust it.
All right, Richard Fuller, thanks so much for your time.
My pleasure.